So in this week's video, I want to talk about 5 of the best ways to speed up your SketchUp model. So SketchUp is one of those really cool programs that's super easy to use and all of that, but probably one of the things that it struggles with most is as you get more and more geometry in your model and more objects, the slower they run. So these tips will help you keep your SketchUp model running quick. Alright, so tip number 1 to speed up your model is to turn off shadows and fog. So SketchUp has these cool features in here for shadows and fog that allow you to see what actual sunlight would look like during different parts of the year and different times of the day. So, and those options are over here in your tray. But the problem with this when you're trying to speed your model up is this is more stuff that SketchUp has to render. So as you can see, I drag my model, and then when I let up on this, then it comes in here and it renders the light and the fog settings and stuff like that. So it's just more stuff that SketchUp has to render. So to turn this off, go into your tray, look for the shadows option, and uncheck the box labeled Use Sun for Shading. And then just in case you have fog figured in here, you should turn that off as well. So just uncheck the box in fog that says display fog. So that by itself is the easiest and fastest way to speed up your model. So if you're having any kind of speed issue, shadows should not be on. The second thing you can do is pick a faster style. So I made a whole video about using styles to speed up your model, but in this case we'll just do a quick overview. So styles affect the way that your model looks. So as you can see right here, my line weights are a little thicker. Every one of the points right here gets rendered as a thickened edge, and that's fine and helpful for modeling and stuff like that. But if you're trying to just move around your model really quick and it's going super slow, you don't want that because that's just more stuff that SketchUp's engine has to render. So basically what you do is you go in the styles option up here, and that's going to be in your tray as well. And if you don't see that, just go to Window, Default Tray, and click Show Tray. So you're going to go in here and click Default Style. And as you can see, when I click the default style, these points aren't getting rendered thicker anymore, your lines aren't thicker. But to make this even faster, because as I drag this, you can see that SketchUp moves your model around, and then when I let up on this, it'll pause for a second, and then it'll render these thicker line weights. So if you really want to make this faster, come in here to Edit under Default Style and uncheck this Profiles button. Because profiles, what that means is it's rendering the lines to thicker than it usually would. So again, it's just taking an extra second to render that, and it's just slowing your model down. So if you come in here and uncheck profiles, you can see these lines aren't thick anymore. And now when I drag around, SketchUp doesn't have to take that extra second every time I move around to re-render thicken line edges and stuff like that. So the next tip I have for speeding up a slow model is while you're working in your model, put face heavy and line heavy objects on their own layer and turn that layer off. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a layer for slow landscaping. And basically what I'm doing with that is you've got these trees in here that have about 1 billion different little faces and objects and stuff that they're using for the leaves. And I mean, this isn't super heavy stuff, but it's still stuff that's going to slow down your model. So while you're working in your model, you may want to turn this stuff off. So basically what you do is you go through and you do a shift click on all these things that you want to turn off, like that. And you go to ND Info and you click this little drop down here and you pick your layer that you want these objects to be on. So in this case, I'm going to put these on slow landscaping. And once I put those on this layer, I can come in here and turn these off. So now when I move around in the model, SketchUp doesn't have to show all those different faces and stuff like that. So while I'm working on stuff, like if I'm in here working on windows or whatever in my model, I don't have SketchUp rendering all this stuff in the background that I don't really need. So it's a great way to speed your model up while you're working in it. All right, so the next object I want to, or the next option I want to talk about is picking smart models from the 3D warehouse. So what I have here is I have two models that I downloaded from the 3D warehouse. Both of them are trucks. Both of them are things that you'd probably use in the background of like a house model or whatever. But generally speaking, these aren't the centerpiece of your model. They're just things that are kind of making your model look more realistic. So they sit in the background and all of that. But you have to be really careful when you pull things like this out of the 3D warehouse, you know, because as you zoom out, you know, they kind of look the same quality. I mean, obviously this Chevy model is a little more detailed and all of that, but when you're doing like a building model, like let's use the house model I was using as an example. So it's got cars down here in this carport. But you don't really look at them. They're just there to make the model look a little bit more realistic and a little more lived in. But they're not the main focus of the model. So what you don't want is you don't want this car, for example, that's sitting under the carport. You don't want that to be a super big, super heavy, super detailed model because it's just going to slow you down. So let's go back to my trucks here. All right, so this model is a great example. This is the truck that I downloaded in this model. As you can see, it's very detailed. It's a very cool model. But, you know, again, if it's just going to be sitting under a carport or kind of in the background, you don't need anything this big. So let's take a look at the stats on this thing. If you notice, the SketchUp file size on just this truck is 11 megabytes. I mean, that's absolutely too big for what you're trying to do in SketchUp. It's just got a ton of faces, a ton of polygons, all that extra stuff. And it's just a really big model. And if you download 11.4 megabytes of SketchUp stuff into your model, it's just going to slow everything down because it's going to be rendering every single face on every single one of these curved instances and all of that. And it's just a whole bunch of extra work for SketchUp's engine that you don't really need. So on the other hand, if I go in here and I look for the SketchUp transportation group, which is where I got this other truck, you've got all these models that are a lot lower poly, and yeah, they don't look quite as good. They're not a super detailed Chevy Silverado or anything like that, but at the same time, you've got this truck that when you zoom out, looks very similar. Once you get zoomed out like this far, the level of detail looks about the same on this model, but the difference is if you look at this pickup truck, the SketchUp file size is only 62 kilobytes. It's only got 343 polygons as opposed to the truck we were looking at before that was 11 megabytes. So you can just dump this into your model and it'll just kind of sit in the background and not take up a whole lot of processing power or anything like that. So generally speaking, if you can use models from SketchUp, those are all modeled with really smart modeling practices, and they'll make your model run a whole lot faster. So if you're looking for vehicles and stuff like that, start with SketchUp in the 3D warehouse, and you can go to search for collections or advanced search and look for SketchUp's collections in order to do that, but it'll really speed your model up to do that. The last thing I want to talk about for speeding up your model is purging the unused layers, components, and materials out of your model. So anytime you bring objects in from the 3D warehouse, what they bring in with them is different groups, different components, different materials, stuff like that, as well as different layers. And what happens is you bring all that stuff into your model, and then sometimes you forget about it, or you decide you don't want it and you delete it out. Well, all that stuff gets left over in your model. So for example, we'll use the same trucks, and then I've also brought in this ATV and this motorcycle right here. And I've kind of opened up the materials pane so you can see what I'm talking about. But basically, you see this kind of camo material right here. I'm going to use that as an example. So that camo material gets brought into your SketchUp model whenever you bring this ATV in. It's something that's a part of that ATV. But if I come in here and I erase this ATV, so if I take it out of my model completely, I don't want it anymore, I decide I don't want it. If you look down in the materials toolbar here, it's still in your material set. So it's still something that's sitting in your model. So anytime you bring things in from the 3D warehouse, sometimes people have already done that, And so you've got materials and stuff sitting in their model already, and then you bring all that into your model and it just gets bigger and bigger. Or sometimes you bring things into your model and then you erase them, but you leave all this junk behind. So I'm going to show you how to purge all that stuff. So first thing you're going to do is you're going to open up your model statistics. So you're going to go up to the window drop down and click model info. And what you can see right here is this is basically statistics for all the stuff in your model. So all your edges, all your faces, your component definitions, it's basically got statistics in here for everything. And make sure you have this box checked for show nested components, because that'll actually give you the info for everything inside your components. If you don't do that, then it's only going to pick up the stuff just in, it's not going to pick up everything inside of components. It's just going to pick up the stuff, the components themselves. So make sure this is clicked. But as you can see, there's just a whole lot of different layers and materials and other stuff in this model. So then if I come in here and I erase out this motorcycle and this ATV, my edges and faces go down, but all this other stuff, these materials and everything else, is still in here. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to click Purge Unused. And basically what that means is we're going to go through and we're going to get rid of the layers and the materials and everything else that we have that isn't being used in the model anymore, that got brought in from somewhere else. And it's not really something that's going to cause you problems in the future. It's just going to get rid of all the stuff that was associated with things that are no longer in your model or stuff like that. So let's go ahead and click this Purge Unused button and see what it does. So make note of what's shown right here. If I click Purge Unused, then what's going to happen is my number of materials should go down, my number of layers should go down, some of these other things should go down as well. But in addition, like this camo color you see goes away, and see how my layers went from a whole bunch of layers down to no layers. So it basically deleted out all of the stuff that was sitting in my model that wasn't being used, so you only have the stuff associated with stuff actually in your model. So it's a great way to really clean out the junk in your model and make it run faster. So this is anytime something's running slow and you've worked with a 3D warehouse, I would go in and click Purge Unused. I mean, it's not going to hurt you. So you may as well do it even if it doesn't seem like it's going to affect very much, because every little bit's going to help when you're dealing with the SketchUp model. So this is a real quick, easy way to get rid of some of the unused stuff in your model and make it run faster. So these are the 5 tips that I have for making your SketchUp model run faster. Leave a comment below. Let me know what you thought. What do you do to make sure your models run faster? I'd love to hear some of your strategies as well. And also, if you wouldn't mind clicking that like button down below, that would really help me out. And if you're interested in more SketchUp videos, then you can click that subscribe button. I'm coming out with new stuff every week. And you can also visit TheSketchUpEssentials.com for more information. So again, thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.